Welcome to a video tutorial on tools for graphing in Minitab Express. In this tutorial, we're going to explore bar charts. The data set that we're going to be using in this tutorial is the pulse rates data that is available at the Minitab Express website. It's the data that's downloaded. And also, based on this data, a spreadsheet was created, and this is what we'll be using as a source data. Both the pulse rates and indicator data and also the spreadsheet are available in the links below the video description. So let's get started. What we're going to first do is take this data, and what we're going to do is copy it and open up Minitab and paste. So now we have the data that has to do with studying the pulse rates of the participants in this study. What we're going to do is study two of the indicators, and we plan to make a bar chart. What we're going to use for our first one is, first of all, to do a bar chart. You look at the graphing menu, select bar chart. This example is done on a Macintosh computer. Minitab and Express on a PC is rather similar, so you do have a similar menu. It may look a little different on how to find it, but it is there. Okay, so select bar chart, and we're going to choose the count of unique values in a categorical variable, and we're going to choose a simple. Now, there are multiple indicators, and it asks you for a categorical variable, and you're wondering, well, how do you tell whether something is categorical or not? Based on the icon next to the indicator description, if it looks like a distribution, it means it's a continuous variable. If it looks like a square, that represents a categorical variable. Ordinal variables are not included in this data set. It would look different. It would be an orange icon that almost looks like a triangle. So let's see, we are interested in this particular example to do a count of who smokes in the bar chart. So we're going to select smokes. You would double click it. An alternative is to select and then use the right arrow over here to move the indicator. So what we have done is now select the indicator, and what we want to do now is to study smoking. All right. In order to view the bar chart, we're going to lower the spreadsheet portion here. You can adjust the size of the window here. And over here, what we have is a bar chart. It tells whether someone was smoking or not in this particular study. And what we're going to do is, let's say you want to customize this graph. What you do is you click on the graph like I did right now, and what will happen is two options to modify the graph. You can either change its layout or you can change some of its elements. Let's explore what changing the graph layout does. Click on it. You can change its orientation, or, so it means, for example, vertically, or you can make it horizontal as you see here. Again, really, you pick what is your preference depending on the visualization you want. And then also the sorting order. You can have default, you can also have increasing, order of increasing, or an order of decreasing. So if we were to do order of decreasing, you'll see no difference because it takes from highest count to lowest. You can also do from lowest count to highest. That's what the increasing does. Or default would be whatever Minitab originally had selected as the presentation order. Select back to default. Over here, under the graph elements, you can of course have the title, which is what's currently. If you hide it, it means it just eliminates the title. You can also include a subtitle. You can also include a footnote. Any one of these three fields is directly editable, including the axes labels. In order to make an edit to any of these, you simply click on it and just type over. Smoking status, for example. So you can again do any one of these simply by clicking on it. You can edit. Okay, what other options do we have? If I go back to graph elements, you can adjust the labels. I mean, you can include the x-axis and y-axis labels or not, so you can also hide them. You can also have labels which show the axes. And we can do like that, where it shows the axes. You can also talk about adjust the scale type. Either you can have the default, which is a count, or show the percentage. Again, sometimes that's useful, especially when you're comparing different groups. Right now I just changed it back to default, which does a raw count. You can include data labels, and what data labels will do will actually display the count of the frequency of, okay, so according to this, 64 people are not non-smokers in this study, and 27 are smokers in this study. Also notice that as you navigate over the bars, you can see information about that particular category as well. Data labels, you can also determine whether you want, if you choose to have data labels, you can either have them outside or inside, which is within the shaded region, or you can just simply not have them. You can include grid lines or not. That's what that does. Let's now explore reference lines. Reference lines are lines that you can add to a graph when you're trying to explore whether a particular... you can also add reference lines. Let's see what that does. So suppose you want to draw lines into the graph that are your custom choice. So for example, maybe I want to draw in a line at 50 and at 30 for some reason. So I'm going to do that right now. In order to enter reference lines, you type in the number, you press a space after each time. And you can have multiple reference lines. Maybe I just want one at 50. You'll notice there's now a red dashed line at 50. If I wanted to add another line at 30, I would just simply type 30 and then push a space again. And now that adds a reference line at 30. If I wanted to, and then I would just simply click out of the box and it would leave those reference lines in. If I wanted to eliminate reference lines, suppose I drew it in and I changed my mind, what I would do is I would go back to those reference lines, and what I would do is just simply backspace over them, then press the space bar, and that will erase the reference lines that were inserted into the graph. And that pretty much shows how to customize the bar graph to fit your needs. The purpose of knowing all these settings is to help you make an informed choice of the best ways that you can show your data visualized using bar charts. Lastly, remember that all the data is also, after you create a bar chart, the data is also summarized below that graph, that it also provides additional information in a nice table format. Let's look at one other way to do bar graphs. So what we just did is a simple bar graph where we only studied one indicator. But let's suppose you want to study the relationship between two indicators. Let's go again and do a bar graph. And this time what we're going to do is we're going to study the relationship. We're going to use clustered. And we're going to study the relationship between smoking and the activity as well of the participant who participated in this study. So let's click OK and see what happens. We'll notice that the chart of smoked activity groups it in non-smokers and smokers, and then it also indicates people who say they have a lot of activity, moderate activity, or slight activity in both groups. Now, one of the things you might notice is when you look at the count, it looks like a lot more non-smokers participate in this study as terms of an overall count. And sometimes when you see great discrepancies between groups and you're trying to just make sense of maybe what's happening as an underlying phenomenon, what we can do is using some of these features that we explored earlier with the simple bar graph. Let's see what we can do. First of all, you can choose whether you'd like, let's for this sake do a horizontal display. So we're looking at that. And the other thing that we're going to look at is scale type. So one of the things we might consider is to look at the percentage. Now notice that this says the percent across all data, which means it's really looking at the whole percentage. It's not taking the percentage of each group, so really still looking at the all data. So right here, what the value is, when you go over and you cursor over it, the value is representing the percentage with respect to every participant. So 17% were a non-smoker and had a lot of activity. Non-smoker and moderate activity comes out to about 46%. Non-smoker with slight activity is 6.5%. And then over here, a lot of activity but smokes is about 5.49%. Moderate, and so on. And that's what that percent across all the data means as a footnote. I just added that footnote. It automatically added this here. Again, you can also see that summarization on a table below, because every one of these graphs does produce. You can see a no percent, a count in percent, and you can also see a yes count in percent in the summary statistics. So this is an example of how we can use the clustered approach to study the effect of two categorical variables and study the underlying patterns in the data. And this concludes this video tutorial. I hope you found this helpful.